Welcome back to Stoicism Glint. Let's take a quiet moment right now and truly imagine what it would feel like to open your eyes every single morning, not with a heavy sigh, a sense of dread, or an immediate rush of anxiety, but instead feeling deeply energized, crystal clear, and entirely sure of yourself. Imagine stepping into the day knowing with absolute certainty that it isn't just another monotonous routine chore on an endless conveyor belt of life, but rather a genuine, breathing opportunity to grow, to move forward, and to finally take absolute, unshakable charge of your own destiny. But let's pause for a second and get completely real, raw, and honest with ourselves. How often do you actually wake up feeling that way? If you are like millions of adults navigating the relentless, high-pressure pace of modern life, you are probably dragging yourself out of bed each morning, feeling stuck, a bit lost, or trapped in exhausting routines and habits that no longer serve who you are striving to become. You feel like life is happening to you, rather than for you. Here is a fundamental truth that many of us completely overlook. How you start your morning isn't just about those first few groggy minutes before you run out the door. It sets the chemical, emotional, and psychological tone for your entire day, shaping your mindset, your daily productivity, and ultimately, the trajectory of your whole life. The ancient Stoics understood this universal truth deeply, recognizing that the dawn of a new day is a rare gift. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor whose private journal has guided humanity for centuries, famously reminded himself, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Today, we are going to dive deep into how you can practically apply this timeless wisdom every single morning, building powerful, life-changing habits that help you master your mind, quiet your inner chaos, and seize absolute control of your day. If you find deep value in taking back your mornings and reclaiming your life, I've got a quick favor to ask. Please hit that subscribe button. It genuinely supports the channel and helps us reach more people who desperately need this message of clarity and strength in a noisy world. Now, let's get right into the first major habit that can change everything. Wake up early. Let's face it, we all have a pretty complicated, love-hate relationship with our mornings. I totally get it. Your bed feels like a warm, safe cocoon, and the snooze button becomes your absolute best friend, whispering those sweet, deceptive lies of just 5 more minutes, you earned it. But here is a reality check most people won't readily admit. Early mornings are absolute game changers. I'm not saying this just to sound like a generic motivational speaker on the internet. This is grounded human biology and lifestyle reality speaking. Those quiet early hours, before the flood of work emails hits your inbox, before text messages start pinging, and before the chaotic demands of family and society take hold, are your golden ticket to true mental clarity and control. Picture this for a moment. Waking up just one single hour earlier than you usually do. At first, it might feel trivial, uncomfortable, or even downright painful. But imagine that hour as a peaceful sanctuary of uninterrupted time. Think of it as your personal oasis in the bustling, chaotic desert of daily life. No distractions, no urgent demands, no notifications, just you and your thoughts, planning your day, setting your deep intentions, or even enjoying a quiet moment of reading something meaningful that anchors you in wisdom and long-term perspective. The ancient Stoics understood this psychological hurdle better than anyone else in history. Seneca once brilliantly noted, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He was reminding us that the sheer dread of waking up early is almost always worse than the actual act itself. It's rarely the physical act of waking up that hurts. It's the negative story we tell ourselves in our heads, telling ourselves that we'll be too tired, miserable, or unproductive throughout the day, that truly holds us back. By rising earlier, you shatter this mental illusion, proving to your brain that true discipline is freedom, just as Stoicism beautifully teaches. Yes, it will feel uncomfortable initially, But real personal growth has never once come from a comfort zone. The brilliant psychologist Carl Jung put it powerfully when he said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." That extra hour in the morning is precisely your window to look inward, awakening not just your physical body, but your deeper self, your authentic vision, and your genuine purpose. It's the sacred time when quiet insights surface, complex problems naturally unravel, and a clear path forward finally emerges from the fog. This brings us directly to our second powerful morning habit: drink water first thing. Your alarm goes off, you stumble out of bed, and what is the very first thing your hand reaches for? Let's be completely honest with ourselves. Most of us bolt straight for the coffee machine or the electric kettle, desperate for that caffeinated comfort, that familiar jolt we convince ourselves we desperately need just to feel human again. And hey, I am not here to demonize coffee. Trust me, I love a good morning brew as much as the next person. But there is a vital biological truth we overlook in our groggy desperation for that first espresso. Your body wakes up literally dehydrated. After spending 7 to 8 hours overnight fasting and resting, your brain and body have gone without hydration for hours, making pure water, not caffeine, the absolute first thing your system genuinely needs. When you immediately flood a dehydrated system with strong caffeine, you spike your cortisol levels and set off a roller coaster of stress and energy crashes later on in the afternoon. Instead, start your day with a tall, refreshing glass of room temperature or cool water. Think of it as hitting the master reset button on your internal system, a simple, elegant ritual that sets the tone for cellular balance and mental clarity throughout your day. Stoic philosophers constantly emphasize the importance of mastering small, everyday actions as the true keys to a greater life. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's sharpest minds, reminded us, progress is not achieved by luck or accident, but by working on yourself daily. Drinking water first thing in the morning is the physical embodiment of that philosophy. It is an act of daily microdiscipline, a subtle, powerful signal to your mind and body that you are prioritizing your long-term health and well-being above mindless habits. Fascinatingly, modern medical science tells us that your brain is composed mostly of water. When you're dehydrated, your cognitive functions, attention, memory, and mood all suffer immediately. Starting your day by replenishing those essential fluids is like giving your mind a gentle, decisive wake-up call, preparing you to tackle whatever challenges lie ahead with clearer thinking and steadier emotions. As Carl Jung once wisely remarked, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Choosing a glass of water over an automatic, sleepy stumble to the coffee pot is a prime example of turning an unconscious reaction into a deliberate choice. It's about reclaiming sovereignty over your impulses, choosing wellness and vitality first, rather than instantly bending to the craving for immediate gratification. Take control of your morning hydration, and you take control of your entire day. Welcome back to Stoicism Glint. Let's continue our deep journey into mastering your mornings by protecting your mental sanctuary from the modern world's most subtle, yet destructive traps. Habit 3. Skip the phone scroll. Think about your morning for a moment. It is sacred ground. It's a completely blank canvas, a fresh start, an open field of infinite possibilities. And yet, what do most of us do? We sabotage it within seconds by blindly reaching for our phones and plunging straight into the digital chaos of notifications, emails, and social media feeds. That immediate rush of digital input floods your brain with anxiety, distractions, and low-grade stress, effectively hijacking your day before it even has a fighting chance to begin. Picture the scene vividly. One moment you are lying comfortably in bed, enjoying the last lingering remnants of peaceful rest. The next moment, you are tangled up in work emails, breaking news alerts about global crisis, and social media stories posted by people you haven't seen in a decade. Why on earth do we willingly hand over the control of our precious morning clarity to random updates, chaotic news headlines, and faceless algorithms designed to steal our attention, Stoicism teaches us to guard our inner peace fiercely. Marcus Aurelius famously advised, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Your smartphone is the primary gateway through which countless external events, demands, and emotional triggers invade your mental sanctuary every single morning. By simply delaying that first digital scroll for even just 30 minutes, you instantly reclaim the power to choose your own thoughts rather than constantly reacting to whatever the digital world throws at you. Carl Jung gave us another vital warning when he noted, "We are not what happened to us. We are what we choose to become." Every single morning, you face a critical crossroads. Will you choose to become someone driven entirely by external pressures, notifications, and distractions? Or will you deliberately shape your day around deep intention and self-awareness? Skipping that morning scroll doesn't just protect your mental health and lower your cortisol levels, it actively cultivates a much stronger sense of self. You start the day knowing exactly who is in the driver's seat. You, not your social media feed. Consider how radically different your morning feels when you trade the blue light of the screen for a moment of quiet silence or reflection. Maybe you journal, read a meaningful passage, or simply sit on the edge of your bed and breathe deeply, gathering your thoughts. You might even rediscover forgotten pleasures, like savoring the quiet warmth of your room or noticing the early sunlight filtering through your window. When you choose conscious presence over endless scrolling, the rest of your day naturally unfolds from a place of deep clarity rather than frantic chaos. Habit 4. Small wins matter. This leads us right into our fourth habit, recognizing that small wins matter more than you think. There is something strangely powerful about starting your day with a tiny act of physical order. I'm not talking about a massive life breakthrough or a major career win. I mean something simple, immediate, and entirely within your reach. You wake up, you pull the covers tight, fluff the pillows, and straighten the sheets. Just like that, you've already completed an intentional, finished task. You've started your day with structure instead of chaos. And let me tell you, that isn't just basic homemaking, that is foundational mental training. We live in a culture that constantly glorifies massive, overnight transformations while completely overlooking the immense value of tiny, consistent habits. But the ancient Stoics knew much better. They understood that true greatness is never found in grand, cinematic gestures. Instead, it is forged quietly in daily discipline, cleanliness, order, and focused execution. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't waste the rest of your life worrying about what other people think of you. It keeps you from doing anything useful." If you think about it, what does a messy, disorganized room often reflect? Frequently, it mirrors a cluttered mind, a mind that is pulled in 10 different directions, worrying far more about outward opinions than inward stability. Making your bed might sound trivial or cliché, but it is the very first signal you send to your brain. I am in control today. I don't need external motivation to get moving. I have built-in momentum. This one small act becomes your first kept promise to yourself. And promises kept build deep, unshakable self-trust. A quiet self-respect that runs much deeper than any temporary feeling of motivation. As retired Navy Admiral William McRaven famously put it in his commencement address, if you want to change the world, start by making your bed. Not because making your bed alone will magically revolutionize your bank account or your career, but because it sets the fundamental tone for everything else you do. If you can't summon the discipline to execute something so small and simple every single day without fail, how can you realistically expect to manage the massive challenges and responsibilities that come later? If you build the habit of executing the small things, what else might you be capable of achieving? The ripple effect across your entire life is profound. Psychologically speaking, the impact runs even deeper. Carl Jung strongly believed in the symbolic power of our physical environment. He reminded us that until we bring our unconscious habits into conscious awareness, they will quietly direct our lives, and we will simply call it fate. That cluttered space around you isn't just an aesthetic nuisance. It often reflects inner mental noise, unprocessed thoughts, and unresolved emotional clutter. Tidy your external environment, and you will often find that your internal thoughts naturally follow suit. A made bed isn't just about looking neat. It is about achieving true psychological alignment. This is how the Stoics lived their lives, not with the illusion of perfection, but with unwavering purpose. They started each morning by actively asserting control over their time, their physical space, and their mindset. Making your bed is your morning declaration. I will not be ruled by disorder. I will not allow my chaotic environment to dictate the state of my mind. I choose discipline, even in the smallest details of life. Welcome back to Stoicism Glint. Let's pick up right where we left off, expanding further into how small daily actions and physical alignment lay the bedrock for an extraordinary life. The power of order and building self-trust. Marcus Aurelius once wrote a piercing reminder to himself: don't waste the rest of your life worrying about what other people think of you. It keeps you from doing anything useful. If you stop to analyze that for a moment, isn't that precisely what a messy, chaotic room reflects? It mirrors a distracted mind, a consciousness pulled in 10 different directions simultaneously, worrying far more about outward validation and the noise of the outside world than about the stability of the inner sanctuary. Making your bed might sound trivial, overly simplistic, or even cliché, but it is actually the very first psychological signal you send to your brain every single day. You are telling yourself, I am in control today. I don't need to wait for a burst of random motivation to get moving. I have already built in momentum. This one small act transforms instantly into your first kept promise to yourself. And let's be honest, promises kept quietly build deep trust with yourself. It fosters a powerful kind of self-respect that isn't loud, arrogant, or boastful, but runs deep into the core of your character. As retired Navy Admiral William McRaven famously put it in his commencement address, if you want to change the world, start by making your bed. He didn't mean that a neatly arranged blanket would magically balance your budget or solve your career dilemmas overnight. He meant it because it sets the fundamental tone for everything that follows. If you cannot summon the personal discipline to execute something so small, simple, and entirely within your control every single day without fail, how can you realistically expect to manage the massive, unpredictable challenges of life? If you build the unbreakable discipline to execute tiny tasks flawlessly, what else might you be capable of achieving? The positive ripple effect across your entire life is profound and undeniable. Psychologically speaking, the impact runs even deeper than surface aesthetics. Carl Jung deeply believed in the symbolic power of our physical environment. He famously wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That cluttered space surrounding you isn't just an eyesore. It is an outward reflection of inner mental noise, unprocessed thoughts, and unresolved emotional clutter. Tidy your external environment, and you will frequently discover that your internal thoughts naturally fall into alignment. A made bed isn't just about looking neat for guests. It is about achieving true psychological alignment. This is precisely how the ancient Stoics lived their lives, not with the illusion of sterile perfection, but with unwavering, deliberate purpose. They started each morning by actively asserting control over their time, their physical space, and their mindset. Making your bed is your morning declaration to the universe. I will not be ruled by disorder. I will not allow my chaotic surroundings to set the emotional tone for my mind. I choose discipline, even in the smallest, most overlooked details of life. Habit 5. Morning movement. This brings us directly into our fifth major habit, morning movement. Have you ever woken up on certain mornings where it feels quite literally like your body is dragging your heavy soul behind it? You know the exact feeling. Leaden limbs, a thick, foggy head, and absolute zero motivation to get out from under the covers. But here is something crucial to realize. The problem isn't that you are lazy, broken, or fundamentally flawed. The real issue is that your physical system is simply still asleep. Your mind might have opened its eyes, but your physical body hasn't caught up to consciousness yet. And until both your mind and body are fully synchronized, you are essentially operating on low-power mode, trying to run a marathon on a depleted battery. What is the fastest way to snap that mind-body connection back into place? It is beautifully simple. Move. Now, let's clear up any confusion right away. This is not about trying to crush an intense, grueling CrossFit workout or sweating through your shirt before you've even had breakfast. We aren't chasing six-pack abs or personal fitness records during these first few minutes. This is about one fundamental human need: activating your core life force. Gentle, deliberate, and even slow movement is your body's natural way of saying, "I'm here, I'm awake, let's go." It could be as simple as a few deep, chest-opening stretches, a quick 10-minute walk around the neighborhood block to feel the crisp morning air, or some light bodyweight squats and restorative yoga poses. That is all it takes. Just enough to gently wake up your central nervous system, get your blood and oxygen flowing smoothly, and remind your brain that you aren't an unfeeling machine. You are a living, breathing human being full of potential. The ancient Stoics deeply valued physical strength and health, but not for reasons of shallow vanity, aesthetic pride, or societal approval. They valued physical vitality, because a strong vessel supports a strong mind. Epictetus once noted, "No great thing is created suddenly." That statement includes your daily energy levels, your self-discipline, and your overall sense of self-control. True vitality isn't built overnight through crash routines. It builds slowly, habitually, day by day. Morning movement isn't a punishing workout session. It is a sacred ritual. It is a quiet act of physical self-respect whose positive echoes will reverberate through your mood, your professional focus, and even your personal relationships for the rest of the day. There is profound psychology working behind the scenes here as well. Carl Jung strongly believed in the unbreakable link between the physical body and the human psyche, suggesting that our unconscious mind often speaks directly to us through our physical sensations. He once said, "The body is merely the visibility of the soul." Think deeply about that for a moment. If your physical body feels constantly stiff, locked up, and dormant day after day, what is your psyche trying to tell you? It's telling you that it feels stuck, repressed, and emotionally tired. The wonderful news is that this relationship works both ways. Get your physical body moving, and your mind will almost always follow. There is a powerful emotional reset that comes directly from physical motion. Do you feel anxious about an upcoming presentation? Move. Do you feel completely stuck in a creative or professional rut? Move. Do you feel sad, uninspired, or unmotivated? Move your body. Motion inherently disrupts stagnation. Your morning movement doesn't have to look elegant or be choreographically perfect. You just have to start. Because once physical momentum kicks off, it triggers a powerful domino effect. Your energy rises, mental clarity emerges, and suddenly, you aren't just blindly going through the motions of your daily routine anymore. You are actively steering your day with purpose, clarity, and unyielding intention. Welcome back to Stoicism Glint. Let's keep this powerful momentum going as we push deeper into habits that radically upgrade your morning routine, shifting you permanently from passive survival to absolute mental mastery. Habit 6. Shock your mind awake. Think back for a moment to the ancient wisdom of Seneca, who famously reminded us that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a vast, tragic amount of it. Let's be entirely honest with ourselves for a second. How many precious mornings are completely wasted by lying completely still in bed, scrolling mindlessly on a phone screen, waiting around until we finally feel like getting up and facing the world? Stop waiting. Stop negotiating with your sleepy, comfortable mind. Just move, and do it before your inner excuses have a chance to catch up with you. Which brings us directly to habit number 6. Shock your mind awake. There is a precise, unmistakable moment right before you step into a cold shower where your brain screams at you with absolute panic. Nope, absolutely not today. And it is precisely in that exact microsecond, when every fiber of your being wants to retreat back to warmth and safety, that true personal transformation begins. That sudden hesitation, that intense physical resistance, that is your comfort zone digging its heels deep into the ground. But if you have been searching for genuine mental strength, emotional clarity, or a radically sharper start to your day, this is your ultimate entry point. Cold water. No filters, no fluff, no excuses. Just you, your breath, and your sheer willpower. Now, let's get this out of the way right from the start. Yes, it completely sucks at first. It isn't supposed to feel cozy or comfortable, but that is the entire point. The ancient Stoics were obsessed with voluntarily facing discomfort. Not because they were gluttons for punishment or loved unnecessary suffering, but because they understood a fundamental law of human nature that most of modern society has completely forgotten. Comfort breeds weakness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his private journal, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." In a modern world built entirely around the total avoidance of discomfort, heated cars, climate-controlled rooms, soft couches, and instant delivery, stepping willingly into a cold shower is a radical, daily declaration. It is you choosing to live with true intention, courage, and grit. From a psychological perspective, cold exposure instantly jolts you straight into the present moment. The sudden thermal shock to your system pulls you forcefully out of your morning mental fog, forcing you to breathe deeply, hyper-focus, and completely override your primitive survival instincts to flee. That is neuroplasticity in live action, your brain actively rewiring itself to handle stress and discomfort with less panic and far more poise. Carl Jung famously stated, "What you resist persists." That initial psychological resistance you feel toward the cold water is deeply symbolic of every other form of discomfort we constantly try to avoid in life. The fear of failure, the dread of criticism, or the anxiety of uncertainty. Face the cold water head-on, and you begin training yourself to face the rest of life's challenges without flinching. This practice builds what the Stoics called fortitude, unshakable mental resilience. Seneca actively trained his body and mind for adversity by fasting, wearing rough clothes, and choosing hard paths, not for the sake of the struggle itself, but for the profound inner strength it forged. Cold showers are simply the modern, science-backed version of that ancient practice, a daily session of resistance training for your nervous system. You step under the water, you breathe calmly through the physiological shock, and in doing so, you prove to your subconscious mind that you can endure intense discomfort without breaking, and that quiet confidence doesn't stay confined to your bathroom. It follows you straight into your workplace, influences how you handle difficult relationship conversations, and changes how you navigate life as a whole. Physiologically, the benefits are undeniable. Cold showers instantly increase blood flow, trigger a healthy release of endorphins, and spike your natural alertness. You don't need a heavy dose of caffeine to feel wide awake. You just need a dose of raw courage. That icy rush clears out the mental cobwebs and drops you straight into the present moment, alert, energized, and fully alive. Here is the secret. You don't need to start with a grueling 5-minute ice bath. Start with just 30 seconds. Take a normal warm shower, and finish it with a sharp blast of cold water. One single moment of shock, one tiny daily win, and one powerful chance to say to yourself, "I am someone who does hard things." The Stoics always believed that true virtue is forged in concrete action, not in passive theory. This is your action, a daily moment of self-conquest. Habit 7. Journaling. This leads us smoothly into our 7th habit, journaling. There is something immensely powerful about giving physical shape to your internal thoughts, turning the chaotic mental loop inside your head into something visible, tangible, and real. Most of us carry around a constant, exhausting stream of worries, to-do lists, past memories, harsh self-judgments, and scattered ideas, all swirling together in an endless mental storm. Left unchecked, that loop becomes a psychological trap that steals your focus, poisons your mood, and clouds your executive decisions before your workday has even started. This is why journaling isn't just some artsy morning trend or hobby. It is essential mental hygiene. Taking just a few minutes with a pen and a blank piece of paper can do vastly more for your mental clarity than hours of passive overthinking ever could. The process itself is wonderfully simple. Sit down, open the notebook, and write. There are no rigid rules, no grammar police waiting to judge you. Just a raw, honest release of whatever is sitting heavy in your chest or cluttering your mind. It might be a lingering worry carried over from yesterday, a vivid dream fragment, a flash of genuine gratitude, or a sharp piece of self-reflection. Let it pour out onto the page without filtering or editing. This isn't about writing a piece of literary art. It is about emptying your mental junk drawer before the chaos of the day fills it back up again. The ancient Stoics practiced this exact ritual centuries ago. They wrote intimate letters to themselves filled with reflections, daily reminders, and personal warnings. Marcus Aurelius kept a private journal, what we know today as Meditations, which was never intended to be published or read by others. It was simply a collection of private, personal notes designed to keep his philosophical principles sharp and his ego tightly in check. In one powerful passage, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That iconic line may never have existed if he hadn't first taken ink to paper, processing his massive imperial challenges through written insight. Journaling didn't just help Marcus reflect. It actively helped him govern a massive empire with grace, composure, and emotional stability. Modern psychology fully backs this up as well. Carl Jung strongly believed that the unconscious mind is constantly trying to communicate with us through symbols, recurring moods, and dreams. He wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." What better way to bring the hidden contents of the unconscious to light than by physically writing them down? When you journal, you grant your inner world a voice. You uncover hidden behavioral patterns you didn't even know existed, repeating frustrations, buried fears, and old mental narratives you've been living by without ever questioning them. Journaling acts like a quiet, honest conversation with the deepest part of yourself, the part that isn't performing for an audience, the part that doesn't care about pleasing others, and the part that always tells the absolute truth. Welcome back to Stoicism Glint. Let's continue building our ultimate morning routine by exploring how emptying your thoughts and setting sharp, tactical targets can completely transform the trajectory of your day. The power of mental cleansing. Remember, journaling isn't about writing a piece of literary art to impress anyone. It is about emptying your mental junk drawer before the chaotic demands of the day fill it back up again. The ancient Stoics practiced this exact ritual centuries ago. They wrote intimate letters to themselves filled with deep reflections, daily reminders, and personal warnings. Marcus Aurelius kept a private journal, what we know today as Meditations, which was never intended to be published or read by others. It was simply a collection of private, personal notes designed to keep his philosophical principles sharp and his ego tightly in check. In one powerful passage, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That iconic line may never have existed if he hadn't first taken ink to paper, processing his massive imperial challenges through written insight. Journaling didn't just help Marcus reflect. It actively helped him govern a massive empire with grace, composure, and emotional stability. Modern psychology fully backs this up as well. Carl Jung strongly believed that the unconscious mind is constantly trying to communicate with us through symbols, recurring moods, and dreams. He wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." What better way to bring the hidden contents of the unconscious to light than by physically writing them down? When you journal, you grant your inner world a voice. You uncover hidden behavioral patterns you didn't even know existed, repeating frustrations, buried fears, and old mental narratives you've been living by without ever questioning them. Journaling acts like a quiet, honest conversation with the deepest part of yourself. The part that isn't performing for an audience, the part that doesn't care about pleasing others, and the part that always tells the absolute truth. And in that raw honesty, something remarkable shifts. You start seeing your situation more clearly. Decisions feel vastly less overwhelming. You begin to notice what actually matters, and what is merely background noise. Even on your absolute worst days, your journal is a completely safe harbor. You can feel angry, anxious, or lost, and still it listens. Still, it holds you without judgment. On your best days, it transforms into a vault of insights and victories that you would otherwise forget unless captured in your own words. Seneca wrote, "We should every night call ourselves to an account." He believed that rigorous self-examination was the root of all wisdom. Morning journaling takes that same principle and puts it into action, except you are not just reviewing the past, you are actively preparing your conscious mind for the day ahead. Habit 8. Set clear daily goals. This leads us directly into our 8th habit. Set clear daily goals. Have you ever experienced that strange, low-grade anxiety that creeps in not because you are doing too much, but because you actually don't know what you should be doing at all? You wake up in the morning, maybe you even feel a sudden surge of motivation, but by the time noon hits, you find yourself aimlessly jumping between tasks, chasing random distractions, and ending the evening completely exhausted with nothing real or meaningful to show for it. Let's get one thing clear. That isn't laziness. That is a total lack of direction. When you fail to give your day a concrete target, you end up handing your precious energy away to whatever loud distraction happens to grab your attention first. This is precisely where intentional goal setting comes in. I'm not talking about some lofty, abstract vision board approach or vague 5-year plans. I am talking about setting clear, immediate daily goals, the kind you can actually take action on today. Not 20 tasks, not 10 tasks, just 3. 3 concrete, achievable tasks that genuinely move the needle. 3 steps that create real, measurable progress instead of just busywork motion. Because let's be entirely honest with ourselves, being busy all day long does not mean you are being productive. And unless you explicitly define what success looks like for you today, you will spend your entire waking hours merely reacting to everything that isn't important. The ancient Stoics were intensely intentional with how they spent their time. They certainly didn't believe in wandering through the day like ghosts, just waiting for clarity to magically appear out of nowhere. Epictetus put it bluntly, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Translation: know exactly where you are heading, or someone else's agenda will take you somewhere else entirely. Modern psychology fully supports this approach as well. Carl Jung heavily emphasized the importance of what he called individuation, the ongoing process of becoming a whole, self-directed person. He believed that true goals aren't just dry corporate tools for career achievement, but vital instruments for deep self-realization. As Jung famously stated, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. When you define your daily goals with radical honesty and deep intention, you aren't just organizing your daily schedule, you are actively shaping your identity. And here is a secret most productivity gurus miss. Goals do not need to be massive to be powerful. In fact, smaller is almost always better. It can be as simple as, reply to that one difficult email you've been avoiding all week. Write a single page of your project. Take a brisk 20-minute walk without your phone. When you keep your daily goals simple and actionable, you give your brain the psychological permission to actually finish something completely. And completion is where momentum is born. Real human accomplishment isn't about the sheer size of the task. It's about finishing it. One fully completed task builds genuine inner confidence, while 10 half-done tasks only breed quiet frustration. Welcome back to Stoicism Glint. Let's continue refining our morning blueprint by exploring how intentional focus, high-quality mental fuel, and powerful visualization can completely transform the way you navigate reality. Habit 9. Feed your mind with intention. Real human accomplishment isn't about the sheer volume or size of the task. It's about absolute completion. One fully finished task builds genuine inner confidence, while 10 half-done tasks only breed quiet, lingering frustration. Building on that foundation, let's look directly at our 9th habit, feed your mind. Most people completely underestimate how fragile and vulnerable our mental state is during those first few golden minutes of the morning. You wake up, and within seconds, your brain begins anxiously scanning the horizon for external input, looking for something to react to, something to latch onto, something to consume. And what do most of us typically feed it? Doom scrolling through social media, absorbing endless outrage, clicking on sensationalized headlines, and reading news alerts that spike our cortisol levels sky high before we've even had a sip of breakfast. The scariest part of this modern trap? We barely even notice it happening. We convince ourselves that we are just catching up on the world, when in reality, we are deliberately feeding our minds junk food and blindly expecting it to carry us through a focused, meaningful day. Here is a hard psychological truth. Your mind is ravenously hungry the very second you wake up. It craves direction, purpose, and clarity. And just like your physical body performs infinitely better when you fuel it with clean, wholesome food, your thoughts and cognitive functions perform radically better when you feed them clean, high-quality content. If you feed your mind random noise, you will get mental confusion. If you feed it substance, you will forge mental strength. The Stoics knew this deep truth long before smartphones ever existed. They firmly believed that the very first thoughts of your day should be consciously chosen by you, not mindlessly inherited from the chaotic outside world. Seneca wisely wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." In our modern digital age, that timeless advice extends directly to the content you consume. Books, profound essays, philosophy, and thoughtful podcasts should be your morning mentors. Spending just 10 minutes reading something that elevates you, grounds you, or gently challenges your assumptions will do infinitely more for your personal growth than hours of passive scrolling ever could. This isn't about trying to turn yourself into some rigid, joyless intellectual. It is about exercising radical intentionality. You are choosing what kind of thoughts will shape your upcoming decisions, what kind of emotions will lead your conversations, and what kind of values will guide your life. Whether you realize it or not, you are constantly being shaped every single morning by your inputs. As Carl Jung powerfully reminded us, you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. Sitting down to feed your mind deliberately is an active choice. It is real action, not just wishful thinking. Even Marcus Aurelius began each day with personal meditations, not with stressful strategy briefings or political drama, but with inward reflection grounded in philosophy. Why did he do it? Because he knew a fundamental rule of leadership. Before you can ever hope to lead others effectively, you must first learn to lead yourself. And leading yourself always starts with the ideas you choose to absorb at sunrise. This doesn't require a massive lifestyle shift. You don't need to devour an entire dense book before the sun comes up. Start small. 10 minutes, a few pages, or a podcast episode that speaks truth into your ear instead of noise. Think of it as tuning your instrument before a musical performance. You are aligning your thoughts with what matters most before life starts demanding things from you. Habit 10. See yourself succeed. This leads us smoothly into our 10th habit. See yourself succeed. Think about how most people start their mornings. They wake up, stumble straight out of bed, and immediately plunge headfirst into their day, half asleep, groggy, and already mindlessly reacting to whatever chaos life throws at them. But then, there are those rare individuals who always seem remarkably calm, clear, and deeply centered. How do they do it? They start differently. They take a few quiet, deliberate minutes to actually see the day before they physically live it. Not on a glowing smartphone screen, not in a digital calendar planner, but within the private theater of their own mind. They close their eyes and picture who they truly want to be, how they want to move through their challenges, and how they want to respond under pressure. They don't picture perfection, because life is never perfect, but they picture purpose, and that makes all the difference in the world. To some skeptics, visualization might sound a bit abstract or overly spiritual, but it is actually one of the most thoroughly grounded, science-backed cognitive practices for shaping real-world results. When you vividly imagine yourself succeeding, actually visualizing the scene in sharp detail, your brain begins to physically forge the neurological pathways required to turn that mental blueprint into reality. You effectively prime your mind to expect success, train your reticular activating system to notice hidden opportunities, and filter out toxic distractions. It isn't magic, it is pure, hard biology. When practiced consistently, visualization rewires your mindset, enabling you to act in direct alignment with your highest goals rather than your deepest fears. The ancient Stoics understood this psychological truth long before neuroscience ever caught up to it. They practiced a powerful form of mental rehearsal known as premeditatio malorum, a deliberate reflection on what could potentially go wrong, not to catastrophize or worry needlessly, but to thoroughly prepare the psyche for adversity. But they also believed just as strongly in contemplating who they wished to become. As Epictetus urged, practice yourself, for heaven's sake, in little things, and then proceed to greater. Visualization is the exact execution of that practice. You are mentally rehearsing strength, emotional courage, and crystal clear clarity long before the actual test arrives in your life. You are training your internal world so securely that when the storms of the outer world hit, you won't be easily shaken. Welcome back to Stoicism Glint. Let's continue refining our morning blueprint by exploring how intentional focus, high-quality mental fuel, and powerful visualization can completely transform the way you navigate reality. Habit 9. Feed your mind with intention. Real human accomplishment isn't about the sheer volume or size of the task. It's about absolute completion. One fully finished task builds genuine inner confidence, while 10 half-done tasks only breed quiet, lingering frustration. Building on that foundation, let's look directly at our 9th habit, feed your mind. Most people completely underestimate how fragile and vulnerable our mental state is during those first few golden minutes of the morning. You wake up, and within seconds, your brain begins anxiously scanning the horizon for external input, looking for something to react to, something to latch onto, something to consume. And what do most of us typically feed it? Doom scrolling through social media, absorbing endless outrage, clicking on sensationalized headlines, and reading news alerts that spike our cortisol levels sky high before we've even had a sip of breakfast. The scariest part of this modern trap? We barely even notice it happening. We convince ourselves that we are just catching up on the world, when in reality, we are deliberately feeding our minds junk food and blindly expecting it to carry us through a focused, meaningful day. Here is a hard psychological truth. Your mind is ravenously hungry the very second you wake up. It craves direction, purpose, and clarity. And just like your physical body performs infinitely better when you fuel it with clean, wholesome food, your thoughts and cognitive functions perform radically better when you feed them clean, high-quality content. If you feed your mind random noise, you will get mental confusion. If you feed it substance, you will forge mental strength. The Stoics knew this deep truth long before smartphones ever existed. They firmly believed that the very first thoughts of your day should be consciously chosen by you, not mindlessly inherited from the chaotic outside world. Seneca wisely wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." In our modern digital age, that timeless advice extends directly to the content you consume. Books, profound essays, philosophy, and thoughtful podcasts should be your morning mentors. Spending just 10 minutes reading something that elevates you, grounds you, or gently challenges your assumptions will do infinitely more for your personal growth than hours of passive scrolling ever could. This isn't about trying to turn yourself into some rigid, joyless intellectual. It is about exercising radical intentionality. You are choosing what kind of thoughts will shape your upcoming decisions, what kind of emotions will lead your conversations, and what kind of values will guide your life. Whether you realize it or not, you are constantly being shaped every single morning by your inputs. As Carl Jung powerfully reminded us, you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. Sitting down to feed your mind deliberately is an active choice. It is real action, not just wishful thinking. Even Marcus Aurelius began each day with personal meditations, not with stressful strategy briefings or political drama, but with inward reflection grounded in philosophy. Why did he do it? Because he knew a fundamental rule of leadership. Before you can ever hope to lead others effectively, you must first learn to lead yourself. And leading yourself always starts with the ideas you choose to absorb at sunrise. This doesn't require a massive lifestyle shift. You don't need to devour an entire dense book before the sun comes up. Start small. 10 minutes, a few pages, or a podcast episode that speaks truth into your ear instead of noise. Think of it as tuning your instrument before a musical performance. You are aligning your thoughts with what matters most before life starts demanding things from you. Habit 10. See yourself succeed. This leads us smoothly into our 10th habit. See yourself succeed. Think about how most people start their mornings. They wake up, stumble straight out of bed, and immediately plunge headfirst into their day, half asleep, groggy, and already mindlessly reacting to whatever chaos life throws at them. But then, there are those rare individuals who always seem remarkably calm, clear, and deeply centered. How do they do it? They start differently. They take a few quiet, deliberate minutes to actually see the day before they physically live it. Not on a glowing smartphone screen, not in a digital calendar planner, but within the private theater of their own mind. They close their eyes and picture who they truly want to be, how they want to move through their challenges, and how they want to respond under pressure. They don't picture perfection, because life is never perfect, but they picture purpose, and that makes all the difference in the world. To some skeptics, visualization might sound a bit abstract or overly spiritual, but it is actually one of the most thoroughly grounded, science-backed cognitive practices for shaping real-world results. When you vividly imagine yourself succeeding, actually visualizing the scene in sharp detail, your brain begins to physically forge the neurological pathways required to turn that mental blueprint into reality. You effectively prime your mind to expect success, train your reticular activating system to notice hidden opportunities, and filter out toxic distractions. It isn't magic, it is pure, hard biology. When practiced consistently, visualization rewires your mindset, enabling you to act in direct alignment with your highest goals rather than your deepest fears. The ancient Stoics understood this psychological truth long before neuroscience ever caught up to it. They practiced a powerful form of mental rehearsal known as premeditatio malorum, a deliberate reflection on what could potentially go wrong, not to catastrophize or worry needlessly, but to thoroughly prepare the psyche for adversity. But they also believed just as strongly in contemplating who they wished to become. As Epictetus urged, practice yourself, for heaven's sake, in little things, and then proceed to greater. Visualization is the exact execution of that practice. You are mentally rehearsing strength, emotional courage, and crystal clear clarity long before the actual test arrives in your life. You are training your internal world so securely that when the storms of the outer world hit, you won't be easily shaken. Welcome back to Stoicism Glint. Let's continue shaping our daily blueprint by looking at how mental rehearsal and grounded gratitude can shield your inner peace against the relentless chaos of the modern world. Habit 10. Continued mental rehearsal and real-world execution. Think about elite performers, like legendary Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps. He used visualization daily, not once in a while, and not just before a massive global championship. Phelps would routinely rehearse his entire swim down to the absolute tiniest movement in his mind beforehand. So, when the high-pressure moment actually arrived on race day, his body intuitively knew what to do because his mind had already lived through it dozens of times. That is what makes this practice so transformative for you. You aren't just sitting around thinking positive thoughts. You are actively engaging in mental rehearsal for success. You are building deep familiarity with the version of yourself who already knows how to handle challenges, overcome obstacles, and win the day. This isn't just an elite tool for professional athletes. It is a vital tool for you. Before walking into that high-stakes work meeting, before navigating that difficult conversation with a family member, or before tackling a personal goal that keeps slipping through your fingers, spend just 5 quiet minutes seeing the outcome you actually desire. Feel it emotionally. Don't just picture yourself completing the task. Vividly picture how you stand, how deeply you breathe, and how gracefully you handle unexpected setbacks. Make it visceral, and make it believable. Remember Marcus Aurelius, writing quietly to himself in meditations, constantly reminding himself of how he wanted to act and respond, choosing conscious response over blind reaction. He never left his character or his composure to mere chance. He visualized self-mastery long before the pressures of ruling an empire ever arrived at his door. And if mental rehearsal was good enough for the most powerful man in the ancient world, it is certainly powerful enough to help you master your day, too. Habit 11. Practice gratitude as armor. This leads us directly into our 11th habit, practice gratitude. It is remarkably easy to forget how much you already possess when your daily attention is constantly dragged toward what is missing. We live in a relentless modern society that constantly pushes us to chase more financial success, more career recognition, more lofty goals, and more material possessions. In that frantic chase, we often lose complete sight of the incredible abundance that is already sitting right in front of us. Let's clear up a common misconception. Gratitude isn't just some soft, feel-good, overly sentimental concept you find on decorated throw pillows. Gratitude is a strict discipline. It is a deliberate mental practice and a powerful way of anchoring yourself firmly in reality when everything around you feels like it is spinning out of control. Here is a raw psychological truth. Your human brain is literally wired to focus heavily on problems, dangers, and flaws. It is an ancient survival instinct left over from our ancestors. If you don't take conscious, active control of your focus, your mind will naturally drift toward what is wrong, what is lacking, and what could potentially go wrong next. However, when you stop, just for a single minute, and intentionally bring your awareness to what is good, what is working, and what is still standing right beside you, that is the exact moment everything starts to shift. Your rigid mindset changes, your elevated stress levels settle down, and your overall perspective dramatically expands. The ancient Stoics knew this deep truth long before modern science ever caught up to it. Seneca famously wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." To him, gratitude wasn't just a decorative accessory for good times. It was psychological armor, an essential tool designed to help a person stay resilient and grounded in a deeply chaotic and unpredictable world. When you actively choose to feel grateful, especially when facing intense uncertainty or professional pressure, you are successfully reclaiming your mental sovereignty. You are proving to yourself that you do not require perfect, comfortable conditions to find something genuinely worth appreciating. Carl Jung, looking at human existence through a psychological lens, believed that a vast majority of our modern emotional suffering stems from a deep state of disconnection from personal meaning, disconnection from our true self, and disconnection from the present moment. Gratitude acts as a sturdy bridge. It gently reconnects you to the essential parts of life that actually matter most. As Jung profoundly stated, The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that transformative journey often begins not with some massive, cinematic life breakthrough, but with a quiet, humbling realization of how much richness is already within you and all around you. Modern neuroscience fully backs up what the Stoics and philosophers knew purely through instinct. Practicing deliberate gratitude increases the brain's production of dopamine and serotonin, the vital neurotransmitters that directly enhance our daily mood, motivation, and mental focus. At the same time, it effectively lowers cortisol, the primary hormone responsible for chronic stress and physical anxiety. Gratitude isn't just an emotional state, it is a powerful biological tool. It primes your neural circuitry to actively look for what is right instead of endlessly scanning your environment for what is wrong. Even Marcus Aurelius, standing at the helm of the massive Roman Empire, facing relentless political betrayal, plague, and deep personal hardship, consistently took the time for daily reflection. He reminded himself daily to focus squarely on what was good, useful, and true. He didn't do this because his life as emperor was easy, but because absolute mental clarity was essential for survival. He wrote, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess." That powerful mindset didn't make him weak or complacent. It made him steady, deeply capable, and unbreakable. Welcome back to Stoicism Glint. Let's continue forging our daily blueprint by looking at how you can arm your mind with ancient wisdom, protect your mental sanctuary, and reconnect with the living world around you. Habit 12. Find inner strength through wisdom. Most people wake up in the morning and immediately dive headfirst into a frantic, anxiety-inducing to-do list, desperately trying to outrun their daily stress before it finally catches up with them. But what if, instead of rushing blindly into the chaos of the day, you chose to ground yourself first? Not with a grueling physical task, but with a powerful, deliberate thought. And not just any random thought, but one that has been sharpened through centuries of human hardship, clarity, and lived experience. Stoic wisdom isn't ancient simply for the sake of preserving dusty traditions. It is timeless because it universally works. The true beauty of Stoic philosophy lies in its radical simplicity. It doesn't ask you to escape life's inevitable chaos, but rather to meet it head-on, with absolute clarity, personal discipline, and unyielding strength. Often, all it takes is a single sentence. One powerful line from Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus, held steady in your mind like a reliable compass, can keep you balanced when the world around you starts spinning out of control. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Let that profound statement sink in for a moment. The thoughts you choose to carry with you throughout the day aren't just harmless background noise. They actively shape who you are becoming. Reflecting on Stoic wisdom each morning helps you choose those thoughts deliberately. You stop merely reacting to whatever life throws at you, and instead, you start preparing for it. It is like putting on invisible emotional armor. When you begin your day by reflecting on a single Stoic idea, you instantly set your psychological tone. You are deciding in advance exactly how you will respond to minor setbacks, sudden interruptions, harsh criticism, or crippling uncertainty. Instead of flinching, you move forward with intention. Instead of spinning in anxious circles, you return safely to your center. This is precisely what Epictetus meant when he taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." From a modern psychological standpoint, this kind of intentional reflection has very deep roots. Carl Jung heavily emphasized the importance of examining our inner landscape on a daily basis. He believed that if we fail to reflect consciously, our unconscious programming ends up dictating our behavior without us even realizing it. He famously stated, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes? Morning reflection, therefore, isn't just an abstract philosophical exercise. It is essential psychological self-defense. You don't need hours of free time. You don't need a massive journal entry or a special meditation cushion. Just pick a single quote, one sentence that genuinely speaks to you. Read it, sit quietly with it for a moment, and ask yourself what it truly means in the context of your actual life. How does this timeless truth apply to that high-stakes work meeting you're nervous about? To the complicated relationship you're navigating? To the difficult challenge you've been avoiding all week? Stoicism was never meant to remain trapped inside old books. It is meant to live actively in your daily decisions. The more often you practice this, the more deeply grounded you become. You will quickly start to notice when your mind wants to spiral into dramatic overthinking, when your fragile ego wants to lash out in defense, or when your deep-seated fears want to take the wheel. And in those exact moments, you will remember the guiding line you started your day with. That simple sentence transforms into a quiet, unstoppable force guiding you right back to yourself. Habit 13. Connect with nature. This leads us directly into our 13th habit, connecting with nature. There is a unique kind of deep exhaustion that has absolutely nothing to do with a lack of sleep. It is the heavy weight that silently builds up when your entire life is lived indoors, under harsh fluorescent office lights, hidden behind glowing computer screens, and trapped beneath relentless daily pressure. It happens when your mind is severely overstimulated, while your physical body remains completely underwhelmed and dormant. When you are constantly plugged into the digital grid and constantly reacting to notifications, slowly and almost imperceptibly, you become deeply disconnected from the world, from your own physical body, and from your authentic self. Sometimes, the absolute simplest solution to mental fatigue isn't trying to squeeze out more productivity or seeking out more digital stimulation. Sometimes, the cure is simply stepping outside. It sounds basic, almost too basic to possibly matter. But spending just a few uninterrupted minutes outside, breathing in actual fresh air, feeling the solid ground beneath your bare feet, and letting the morning sunlight or even rain touch your skin can radically shift your entire mental state. This isn't just about escaping the four walls of a room. It is about reconnecting with something deeply ancient and essential within your biology. Long before we had crowded concrete cities, complex computer algorithms, and rigid digital calendars, we had changing seasons. We had wind rustling through trees, birdsong at dawn, and rich soil underfoot. Our human biology is still fundamentally wired for that natural world, even if we rarely live in it anymore. The ancient Stoics, despite their immense intellect and urban lives, never saw themselves as separate from nature. In fact, their entire worldview was built on aligning harmoniously with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Adapt yourself to the life you have been given, and truly love the people with whom destiny has surrounded you." That profound alignment includes the physical world around you. To the Stoics, nature wasn't just a pretty backdrop for a walk. It was a master teacher, a constant reminder that everything changes, everything flows in cycles, and everything in the universe is deeply connected. Carl Jung held a remarkably similar view through his psychological lens. He observed that modern humans suffered extensively not just from situational trauma, but from a profound, widespread disconnection from the natural world. He wrote, "Natural life is the nourishing soil of the soul. When we completely lose contact with that nourishing soil, both literally and metaphorically, we naturally begin to feel ungrounded, chronically anxious, and restless." It is certainly no coincidence that a brief, quiet walk through a park or a tree-lined street can calm your nervous system far more effectively than hours of anxious overthinking ever could. You don't need to pack up your bags for a weekend retreat deep in the mountain wilderness. Start small. Step outside your front door for just 5 minutes tomorrow morning. Feel the crisp cold of the air or the warm touch of the morning sun. Notice the sky, look at the trees, listen to the morning birds, and embrace the stillness. It isn't about turning nature into another rigid task on your to-do list. It is about letting the natural world remind you that there is a vast, calm reality waiting outside the curated chaos of your daily schedule. As the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus once noted, nature loves to hide. But it isn't hiding from you. It is always there, quietly waiting, offering you enduring stillness, true perspective, profound beauty, and deep healing. The more time you spend anchored in it, the less reactive you become to life's minor irritations, and the more human you will finally start to feel again. Welcome back to Stoicism Glint. Let's move into the final, vital pieces of our morning blueprint, exploring how you physically fuel your engine and speak strength into your mind to conquer the day ahead. Habit 14. Fuel for your mind and body. Have you ever wondered why some mornings your brain feels chronically foggy, slow, or scattered? Most people immediately blame it on a lack of sleep, or convince themselves they just need another heavy dose of caffeine. But often, the real reason is much simpler and far more physical. You are trying to run a high-performance biological machine completely on fumes. We talk a lot in the modern world about mindset, productivity frameworks, and strict discipline. Yet, we completely forget a basic biological reality. Your brain is a physical organ. It does not run on abstract thoughts or willpower alone. It runs entirely on real physical fuel. And the quality of that fuel matters far more than most of us like to admit. Too often, breakfast gets sacrificed at the altar of morning speed. You're running late for work, so you skip it entirely, or you grab something heavily processed, loaded with refined sugar, quick, and ultimately empty. Sure, that sugary pastry or sweet coffee drink might give you a sharp artificial jolt of energy for about 20 minutes. But what happens right after? Here comes the crash, the brain fog, the sudden irritability, and the mid-morning slump. Your day begins to unravel, not because you are weak, and not because you lack discipline, but simply because your physical body was never given what it needed to show up fully. The ancient Stoics would view this careless neglect as a form of self-sabotage. Epictetus reminded us that no man is free who is not master of himself. That true mastery doesn't just apply to how we think, speak, or control our emotions. It applies directly to how we care for our physical body. Starting your day by honoring your physical vessel with real, wholesome nourishment is self-respect in action. Let's break it down practically. Your brain requires specific, high-quality nutrients to function at its absolute peak. Clean protein to stabilize your blood sugar, healthy fats to support laser-sharp focus and hormone regulation, and real food that digests slowly to fuel you evenly across hours. Think eggs, avocado, Greek yogurt, nuts, and steel-cut oats, not sugary pastries, sodas, or artificial energy drinks. When you choose whole, intentional food first thing in the morning, you aren't just filling your stomach, you are sending a powerful psychological message to your mind. I came to perform today. Carl Jung deeply understood the profound interconnectedness of the human body and the human psyche. He firmly believed that the physical and the psychological are so deeply intertwined that they cannot be separated. In his view, the body wasn't just a mechanical vessel to carry the head around. It was a mirror of the soul. He wrote, "The mind is like the eye. It cannot see itself without reflection. And part of that reflection includes how we treat our physical form. What you feed your physical body quite literally becomes the quality of your thoughts, the steadiness of your emotions, and the clarity of your life choices." This isn't about fostering guilt or chasing rigid dietary perfection. It is about cultivating radical self-awareness. Ask yourself honestly, would you ever expect a world-class Olympic athlete to step into training without proper fuel? Would you expect a surgeon to perform a delicate operation with shaky hands and an empty head? Then why on earth do you expect yourself to think clearly, act decisively, and stay grounded when your most basic physical needs are completely unmet? Habit 15. Speak life into your day. This brings us to the final, transformative step of our morning routine. Speak life into your day. Some mornings, the hardest battle you will fight isn't getting your feet to touch the cold floor. It is facing the voice inside your own head, that subtle, persistent inner critic that shows up before you even had a chance to wake up. the one that whispers quiet doubts, replays yesterday's mistakes on a loop, and casts a heavy shadow over your confidence before you've even had a chance to prove what you can do. That inner voice isn't loud, but it is relentless. And if you don't deliberately counter it, it sets the emotional tone for your entire day. Welcome back to Stoicism Glint. Let's bring everything we built together into a powerful conclusion, tying these timeless habits into a unified blueprint for mastering your mind and winning your day. The power of your internal voice, strategic counterattacks. As we explored, that quiet inner critic isn't loud, but it is persistent. And if you don't deliberately counter it early on, it dictates the emotional temperature for your entire day. This is why true morning affirmations aren't just silly, feel-good positive thinking exercises. They are strategic counterattacks. When done with pure intention, they act like verbal armor. You aren't just reciting random words into the empty air. You are actively rewriting the deep internal script that has been running on autopilot in your brain for years. You are choosing thoughts that strictly align with who you want to become, rather than surrendering to who your fears say you are. Marcus Aurelius understood this psychological reality on a profound level. As the emperor of Rome, he started his demanding days not with external political proclamations, but with quiet inner declarations. In meditations, he reminded himself, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. He knew that whatever thoughts you repeatedly speak, repeat, or focus on are the exact thoughts that color your entire perception of reality. They shape your daily behavior, your interpersonal reactions, and eventually, your lasting identity. Affirmations are simply a practical tool for conscious coloring. They take only a few seconds to say, but they ripple outward into how you speak, act, and show up throughout your entire day. Saying something simple like, I control how I respond, or today, I choose clarity over chaos, might feel a bit strange or awkward at first. But your brain is always listening, even when it is just you talking quietly to yourself. Carl Jung, looking at this from a psychological perspective, heavily emphasized the power of language in shaping our human identity. He once wrote, words are animals, alive with a will of their own. When you speak words of power, direction, and grounding, you aren't just making meaningless noise. You are calling something vital to life. You are speaking not only to yourself, but into yourself, reminding your subconscious mind who is truly in charge. This doesn't mean you have to shout cheesy slogans into a mirror or recite corporate catchphrases that don't resonate with your soul. The absolute key is sincerity. Choose words that feel deeply rooted in personal truth, even if they stretch you out of your comfort zone. Say them with clear intent, speaking like you are planting a seed in the rich soil of your mind, rather than just throwing phrases out into the wind. And when you say them out loud, not just inside your head. Sound carries power, and physical vibration reinforces belief. When your own voice speaks confidence, resolve, or inner peace, it becomes significantly harder for doubt to interrupt you. Even if your voice shakes slightly, even if it feels completely awkward, say it anyway. You aren't speaking for who you are right now in this exact moment. You are speaking for the person you are actively becoming. As Seneca famously said, we become brave by doing brave acts. The exact same rule applies to confidence. You don't wait until you magically feel confident before you speak with conviction. You speak with confidence, especially when it feels difficult, and slowly, day by day, you become it. Own your morning, own your life. You don't need to try to control every single chaotic, unpredictable event that happens during your day. You just need to own your morning. Because how you begin your morning is quite literally how you live your life. Every single small decision, every quiet moment of deliberate intention, echoes powerfully through the rest of your journey. True strength, unwavering mental clarity, and deep inner peace, they aren't things you just randomly stumble across or find lying around. They are practiced. Thank you for spending this time with us here at Stoicism Glint, where we don't chase impossible perfection. Instead, we train every single day for presence, clarity, and purpose. If this message spoke to something deep inside your heart, check out the recommended video waiting on your screen right now. It will take you even deeper into this journey. Something tells me it's exactly what you need next. Until next time, take charge of your morning and win your day.